Friends, today is Trans Visibility Day, a day to support our trans siblings. In honor of this day, we want to say to trans people everywhere, we see you. We see your struggles and the ways in which harmful rhetoric hurts you. We also see your dignity, your courage, and your grace. So this is a shout out from the Iowa Cabinet. We see you.
We see you as beloved children of God.
We see you as the siblings of sacred worth.
We see you as honored and precious in God's sight.
We see you as created in the very image of God.
We see you as part of God's good creation.
We see you as fearfully and wonderfully made.
We see you as gifted servants of God.
We see you as valued members of our connection.
Trans Visibility Day is about awareness. It is about learning about the lives and witness of trans people and their families. Learning ourselves is a way to support this community and to break down the misunderstanding and the stereotyping, a way to combat the hate. It can literally be a way to save lives. Indeed, because of the bullying directed at them, trans youth are at a high risk for suicide. If you know someone who needs help, direct them to the Trevor Project, a crisis intervention network. Go to thetrevorproject.org. You can also find information through the Human Rights Campaign at www.hrc.org. God bless.
That was the Iowa United Methodist Church Administrative Group. Devout Christians in a state that recently made it legal to discriminate against transgender people and the first state in over 100 years to deliberately remove civil rights from a minority under active threat for ostensibly religious reasons. Why that is good news is simple. Their message, like so many others from so many religious leaders all around the country and across the world this week, show that faith does not mandate hate. We'll get into more of that, as well as other stories from Trans Day of Visibility coming up, because good news starts right now. On the 9th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, Harvey Milk gave a speech that applies shockingly well to today, almost 50 years later. By just updating the political figures and groups referenced, it highlights how closely the situation now parallels what was happening then. So let's do that, somewhat abridged for time. My name is Ember Belrad, and I want to recruit you. I want to recruit you for the fight to preserve your democracy from the Nancy Maces and the Dennis Pragers who are trying to constitutionalize bigotry. We are not going to allow that to happen. We are not going to sit back in silence as thousands of our trans sisters and brothers did in Nazi Germany. We are not going to allow our rights to be taken away and then march with bowed heads to the gas chambers. On this day of visibility, I ask my sisters and brothers to make the commitment to fight for themselves, for their freedom, for their country. Here in the USA, we recently held an election for the presidency. An anti-trans smear campaign was waged against a candidate who was silent on trans issues because she was supported by trans people. Here, in the so-called free United States, an anti-trans smear campaign was waged by so-called patriots. And here, in so-called freedom-loving USA, we have columnists for the so-called progressive newspaper, the New York Times, who have printed a number of columns containing distortions and lies about trans people. They're getting away with it. These anti-trans smear campaigns, These anti-trans columns were laying the groundwork for Project 2025. We had better be prepared for it. In the Times, we are defamed. But in other outlets, we are warned to be quiet, told daily that talking about trans rights is counterproductive. To those so-called journalists, I say that the day we stop talking about freedom is the day we no longer have it. African Americans did not win their rights by sitting quietly in the back of the bus. They got off of it. The gays and lesbians did not win their rights by meekly and politely waiting for the straight folk to do the right thing. And a century ago, women did not win our right to vote by being demure. Rights that all are under attack right now, by the way, being rolled back state by state and at the federal level, while the people keep cheering about the harm being done to us. Trans people, we will not win our rights by staying quietly in our closets. We are coming out. We are coming out to fight the lies, the myths, the distortions. We are coming out to tell the truth about us. For I'm tired of the conspiracy of silence. I'm tired of listening to the Dennis Pragers and Matt Walshes twist the language and meaning of the Bible to fit their own distorted outlook. But I'm even more tired of the silence from the religious leaders of this nation who know that they are playing fast and loose with the true meaning of the Bible. I'm tired of their silence more than of the biblical gymnastics. And I'm tired of Nancy Mace talking about false role models. She's lying in her teeth and she knows it. But I'm even more tired of the silence from legislators and officials who know that Mace is lying yet say nothing. I'm tired of their silence more than Mace's lies. I'm tired of the silence, so I'm going to talk about it. And I want you to talk about it. Trans people, we are often painted as groomers. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the myth of child molestations by trans folk. I want to talk about the fact that it is the same churches where we are most vilified where exactly that kind of abuse so frequently happens. I want to talk about the fact the Southern Baptists have to sell their Nashville headquarters to pay the court costs for all their child predation crimes. That's not even to pay the victims, just the court costs. I want to talk about how the Catholic Church, the Mormon Church, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and so many more have to sell off property to pay for the astronomical costs they have incurred and continue to incur as a consequence of the rampant abuse in their ranks. Every single day, another pastor or priest goes to jail for hurting kids. Every week, another report reveals a scandal of hundreds or thousands of children hurt at the hands of so-called servants of God. It's no wonder they try so hard to make us the scapegoat. I want to talk about the fact it is cis people abandoning their children, kicking them out of the house and onto the streets because those kids are queer or trans. I want to talk about the fact that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been sexually assaulted, and 99.9999% of their attackers have been cisgender. I want to tell the Joanne Rowlings and Mike Johnsons who try to spread this myth we're a threat that they're lying, and the people who believe them that they're being manipulated. But today, I want to talk about the facts of cisgender violence and what the hell are any of you going to do about that? Clean up your own house before you start telling lies about us. Don't distort the Bible to hide your own sins. Don't change facts to lies. Don't look for cheap political advantage in playing upon people's fears. I'm tired of the myths. I'm tired of the distortions. I'm speaking up about it. Trans brothers and sisters, what are you going to do? You must come out. Come out to your parents. I know that it is hard and it may hurt them, but think of how they will hurt you in the voting booth. Come out to your relatives. I know that it is hard and may upset them, but think of how they will upset you in the voting booth. Come out to your friends, if indeed they are your friends. Come out to your neighbors, to your coworkers, to the people who work where you eat and shop. Come out to only the people you know and who know you, not to anyone else. But once and for all, break down the myths, destroy the lies and the distortions. For your sake. For their sake. For the sake of the youngsters who are being terrified by the votes coming from Tallahassee to Boise. If Mace wins, she will not stop. They never do. Like all mad people, they are forced to go on to prove they were right. There will be no safe closet for any trans person. So break out of yours today. Tear the damn thing down once and for all. History says that, like all groups seeking their rights, sooner or later, we will win. While Texas has tried to erase trans people with legal games and has a proposal on the table to make simply being a trans person a felony, the trans community gathered at the state capitol for Transgender Day of Visibility to show that we cannot be erased. The Austin American-Statesman's Jay Janner covered the event with the best medium for visibility a newspaper can offer, in pictures. Here are a few folks. Felix Nance, Aaron Schmidt and his step-parent, Jay, Elena Sanzala, Mel Arias, Lily Reynolds, and Veronica Sage, Aaron Pont, Marco Rose and Aaliyah Lockwood, Ari LeBlanc and Raylan Gosen, Nicole and Maritza, Maine Sturks, Jesus Barrera and Tim DeVick, Sydney Nance. Several of these people spoke about their experiences and struggles as trans Texans. Several others were parents, partners, siblings, or friends there to offer support or to stand up for trans people in their own lives. One of the great things about humanity is the biological drive towards compassion. Because no matter what you've been told by the fearmongers and politicians, once you know a trans person, once you see our humanity, you can no longer look at what these governments are trying to do to criminalize our existence as anything but the naked cruelty it really is. And nothing can stop that humanity from spreading. Trans Day of Visibility started in Michigan when Rachel Crandall Crocker gathered various community groups to establish a holiday to celebrate the accomplishments and joy of the trans and non-binary communities. So it only makes sense that this state would take a special pride in this particular event, one focused on our happiness rather than only our struggles. Trans Unity Coalition founder Bree Taylor said this day reminds us to, quote, find moments of celebration in the midst of adversity and to keep showing up with that joy. She went on to add, quote, when we decide to exist proudly in the public eye, we disrupt every storyline that says we can only be ashamed of ourselves or invisible. Roz Keith, founder of Stand With Trans, said she became involved because of her trans son. She said, quote, "What I learned through his journey is that being transgender is not about changing who you are. It's about becoming who you have always been." Emmy Zanotti, a senior director at Equality Michigan, sees the road ahead further than most, saying, quote, "If these next generations are simply visible, it will not be enough. It will now be our mission and our responsibility to make sure that transgender people are not just seen, but to make sure we are heard and to make damn sure that we are understood." While Connecticut debates adding a constitutional amendment to protect gender identity, Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysowitz and other state lawmakers hosted and spoke at this year's Trans Day of Visibility. Brianna Scour, organizer of Middletown Pride, spoke a bit about how far our community has come. Quote, "In 2025, we have visible transgender individuals in local, state, and federal government. We argue cases before the Supreme Court. We're journalists, activists, artists, and public servants. Our existence is a birthright, one that includes joy, struggle, and the right to take up space. We work, we love, we sing, we dance, we struggle, we succeed, and we vote. We have always existed, but now we exist openly and honorably." Julie Walsh, a director at Triangle Community Care, spoke on the subject of intersectionality. Quote, "We can't talk about visibility without also talking about race, disability, immigration, and access. Trans immigrants and undocumented folks are enriching our culture and building futures despite enormous odds. Visibility alone is not a shield, but it doesn't erase the systemic barriers trans and non-binary people face every day." Meanwhile, in New York, while the state deals with ongoing outbreaks of anti-trans violence in connection with the inauguration of the current president, Governor Kathy Hochul signed an official proclamation celebrating Trans Day of Visibility, which declared several prominent landmarks from Niagara Falls to the state capitol will be lit with the colors of the trans flag. In a press release, she said, quote, "New York is proud to be the birthplace of the LGBTQ+ rights movement, with trailblazers like Marsha P. Johnson, whose courage and leadership sparked the fight for equality. While the Trump administration is attacking the existence of trans people through harmful policies and rhetoric, New York remains a beacon of hope and acceptance. On Transgender Day of Visibility, we honor the strength and resilience of the transgender community." The press release went on to repeat that New York was the first state to issue regulations prohibiting harassment and discrimination based on gender identity. With an ongoing rash of deaths and assaults targeted at trans people across the state, what actions the government plans to take to ensure the actual safety of trans residents remains to be seen. But the Empire State is taking a stand, on paper at least. Similar gatherings took place in Hawaii, the state with the highest percentage of trans residents, who just a few months ago elected a trans representative to what was, at the time, the highest office yet occupied by a transgender person. Delaware, home of the current highest-ranking trans elected representative, Philadelphia, Denver, and over 1,000 people in Spokane who turned up for the Gender Freedom March, a combined effort of the area trans advocacy groups and pride organizations to campaign for healthcare rights and civil rights equality for all citizens, regardless of sex or gender. We end where we begin, with a reminder that the watershed event in our movement was not a peaceful demonstration, but an uprising. And while the current administration has defaced the landmark commemorating that revolutionary moment, the locals are keeping the spirit of Stonewall alive, as they have every year since. NYC Pride has announced the theme of the 2025 Pride March, to be held June 29th in Manhattan, as Pride in Protest. In a release, organizers said, as the GSM community faces increasing hostility and legislative attacks, this year's theme, quote, is a reflection of the Pride movement's origins in protest, and is a powerful call to action for our communities and allies to rally and march in defiant celebration, advocacy, and solidarity. Co-chair Kaz Alexander said, quote, this year, more than ever, we acknowledge that Pride can be celebrated in many ways, but at the heart of our mission, we recognize that we must also remain steadfast in protest. The challenges we face today, particularly in this political climate, require us to stand together in solidarity. Pride is not merely a celebration of identity, it is a powerful statement of resistance. Co-chair Michelle Iramia added, quote, in the face of increasing discrimination, we must continue to push forward. As New Yorkers, we know pride is resistance. Pride is activism. And most importantly, pride is for everyone. The fight for equality is far from over. In addition to the Pride March, NYC Pride produces Pride Fest, one of the largest GSM street festivals in the world. Pride Gives Back, a grant program supporting local organizations that serve the GSM community, and other events across the year, all of which you can learn more about at their website, nycpride.org. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. Transpositions Weekly is the first and only weekly trans news show in the universe, and we need your support to keep this show going. Contribute at patreon.com/thetranspositions. Spread the word on social media to let people know we're here, and tell us what stories matter to you by joining the community on Discord. Discord, of course, is where the memes live, and our meme of the week was posted by Bumblebee. And if you want to laugh at the people destroying their own lives out of spite for us, join us. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad.
What's your name? Yeah.